Hi, I'm Neil Greenberger. Thanks for joining us for this edition of In the Loop on County Cable Montgomery. Today, our special guest, Councilmember Roger Berliner, Chair of the Council's Transportation, Infrastructure, Energy and Environment Committee. We're going to talk about many of the issues that you've been concerned about on our show today. But one of the first things I really want to talk to you about is, since you became a council member over 9 years ago, more than any other council members currently on the council, your district has changed considerably. You still have those core areas of Bethesda and Chevy Chase and Potomac, but redistricting made you go right along the Potomac all the way out to the Potomac area. A lot of people would say, what do people in Chevy Chase, which is so urbanized, have to do with people who live out in a farm area? How's this changed your job?
Well, it's actually expanded it in a wonderful way, because now I do represent a big chunk of the ag community and get to relate to farmers and their concerns. And I got to tell you, I just love farmers. You talk about people that work the earth, that work hard, and it's actually a business. So it's not just the land. They have to be technologically savvy, and it is a different culture. And so that's a good thing that we have and want to promote different cultures in our community. And so it's been a real blessing for me.
Does it make you have to juggle things in a different way? Or at the core, are people all the same when it comes down to the essence of what they need?
People are different and their needs are different, but they're not necessarily in conflict. They are distinct needs. But we've focused, I certainly had focused previously a lot on the down county sets of issues, and now I've got the people around Poolsville, and that's a different kettle of fish, and that's a good thing.
Well, one of the things that has stayed the same is your area around North Bethesda that you've always represented, and the White Flint area in particular is, at least right now, the most evidently changing area of this county. It's changing at a rapid rate.
Yes.
Some people know what's going to be there, some people don't. Sometimes it just pops up, sometimes there's bulldozers. It's something that the council approved for that plan, and it's really going to be the face of this county in many ways. What's going to become of that White Flint area, and not only in the next few years, what do you think it's going to look like in 10 or 20 years?
Well, I can tell you because I now live there. And I chose to live there for the reasons lots of people are going to choose to live there in my judgment, because it's a great place to live for the new urbanism. So like many people, once upon a time I had kids out in the suburbs and had big grassy fields, etc., and then had the opportunity to move into what is going to be really the heart of our community going forward in the new urbanism. So you have these great amenities, this mixed use development where you have restaurants, where you have shops, where you have enlivened streetscapes, and that's what people increasingly are looking for. Senior citizens who don't want to drive and you're that close to Metro. Young people who don't want to drive and you're that close to Metro. Diversity. So it really is, it's a great community, and it's going to get very strong, much stronger. And it was one, when we passed the master plan, we said to ourselves, this could generate $7 billion in net economic benefits for our county. So it's good for our county, it's good for our people, it's good for the surrounding residential neighborhoods who've seen their property values go up. It is a win-win across the board.
In that regard, I think when the council approved the plan, the thinking was this isn't just a community for the people who are going to live there and work there. It's going to be a focal point and a drawing point for people in many ways, and it looks like that's where we're going.
And it does. In my building, they're District of Columbia license plates. I love seeing that, to draw the millennials from the District of Columbia and saying, no, we have something here in Montgomery County that you would love, and then just pop on the Metro and get downtown if that's where you work.
Well, in the same nature of growth, this county is really purged and set for growth, and you've been a great part of shaping a lot of it. We're going to have the great Seneca area is on the horizon. Just recently approved the plan for the eastern part of the county. I know you've been very concerned about it, and recently you called and organized a forum about the infrastructure of this county. In particular, more people need for more schools, and that's been a really hard thing. Hundreds of people came to this forum.
Yes.
What were the major topics? What are the most concerns of people both living here and people who want to live here?
Well, anytime you're adding 2,500 kids a year, as we currently are, it's going to just put great stresses on our schools and overcrowding of our schools. And we just aren't catching up. But the conversation has been a lot about growth and our school capacity and transportation capacity. And people point to the cranes and they go, oh my goodness, how can you be allowing more growth in the down county when our schools are so full with capacity? So this was a program that was designed to bring everybody together, our community, our leaders together. So we had the county executive there. We had all of our school officials, including our acting superintendent and our president of our school board. We had our planners. We had our transportation leaders. And we brought everybody together for a full day of talking through and working through these issues and opening people's minds to the possibilities. And that was the greatest part of the day, of bringing in speakers from outside the county and saying, imagine if you thought this way, what could we do? And so that's what I'm hoping we will learn from it, thinking differently.
I think, and one of the reasons that you work so hard to organize this, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody talks about how education should work and how neighborhoods should work, and I think you were a bit concerned that people agreed on a lot of things and nobody was sitting around talking about them in one room.
Exactly. We need our school system and our planners and our council all working together with respect to this. You know, there's some people that believe that because our schools are overcrowded, we can't allow more growth. Actually, I'm not of that camp, but I understand that argument. I think our county should decide where we should grow, and then I think we should turn to our school system and say, you need to accommodate this. I don't think the tail should wag the dog, if you will. And so, but to make that happen, you really need to work a little more seamlessly than we have in the past.
Do you ever think there's going to be a time in this county that we won't have portable classrooms in certain areas?
No, I don't, because it's become part of the architecture of dealing with surges in capacity and then seeing that capacity then diminish over time. So you don't want to build schools probably for peak capacity, because then you're probably spending more money than you need to. So you need to have some way to have little incremental learning cottages, I believe is what they're called.
You think people can understand that concept, because it really is a basic concept of you got to build and plan for the future?
I don't think people will ever be happy with that concept, but I do think it is part of what will be true forever, and we'd be dishonest if we said otherwise.
Well, part of something that's going to be around forever, and that's electric power, and something that's been the essence of your term as a council member. Recently, there's been a proposal to merge Pepco with Exelon, based in the Midwest, and getting closer to happening. I think you've been a watchdog over this to the regard that no one else has been. Montgomery and Prince George's County's executive branches have seemed to have negotiated a settlement agreement. What is this going to mean to people? And also, I know that the agreement that they've come to is not something that you're entirely comfortable with.
Not just me, but 9 members of our council told our county executive, do not do this. Do not enter into a settlement in the absence of bringing about a global settlement. And the concern is, as our Attorney General has said, as our Maryland Energy Administration has said, as the Office of People's Counsel has said, who represents ratepayers, this deal is not in the public interest. Exelon has all these nuclear power plants that are hurting. And the concern is that they will use Montgomery County ratepayers to prop up their nuclear power plants. And we need assurances that if this is going to merge and they're going to become the biggest energy player in the mid-Atlantic region, then they ought to be the best energy player, and they ought to be the cleanest energy player, and they ought to show their commitment to renewable energy, to solar, to wind, the energy efficiency, and they ought to make commitments to it. And so we all urge the county executive, don't cut a deal just for us, because it's not going to be enough to satisfy the larger public interest that's at play here. And I think we'll pass a resolution shortly that basically affirms that our council and our county executive do not see this the same way.
No matter what happens with an agreement, you're never going to be done watching over that.
I am not going to be done watching over this. This is something that I was trained to do for many years, and I really did not anticipate that my professional background as an energy lawyer would be so relevant to our community. But given the lack of reliability with Pepco over the years and all the other issues we face, I've been pleased that this skill set hopefully has been beneficial to our community.
It is one thing that touches everybody, business people, and then that's why it's so important.
It sure is.
And on that same note, your committee oversees transportation and metro, and something that's been, sometimes you take it for granted when it's working well, and when something like Metro Rail is not working well, everybody notices. They have a lot of needs and concerns, both immediate and for their long-term future, not only in the building of Metro, but the safety of Metro. You've been able to use your committee to try and keep a thumb on this. Should be people who rely on Metro every day be concerned about it, especially people who ride the red line from Montgomery County?
Should we be concerned in a way that would say to you, gosh, I don't want to get on the Metro because I'm nervous? No. But should we be insisting on a higher quality of safety? Absolutely. This is a huge organization, and it's an organization that really needs a shakeup. It needs a cultural change, and it's not just on safety, it's not just on finances, it needs to get better, because they're going to need to come to us and ask for more money, and they need more money. But in the absence of instilling confidence in the public that this organization is running really top, then it's going to be harder to give them the dollars they need.
Well, in the way they're trying to restructure themselves, which should be as a business and hasn't been as a business, when your committee calls them, are you getting the answers that you need or you want to hear yet, or we still have a ways to go?
I think we still have a ways to go. We just had a committee session in which we asked them about the fires that happen in the stations, and a lot of it's due to what's called the third rail, an electric line that runs down the middle of the track, and insulation that covers it, and there's arcing that happens. And so we said, well, how's the insulation look? And they go, well, we really can't answer that. Well, you can't answer what the insulation looks like? I need a better answer.
And I heard you say that's not acceptable.
was not a good answer.
On a different front, but a related front, there's new leadership in the governor's mansion in the state of Maryland. I think it's been a few months, but everybody's learning to accept that. But new leadership brings new ideas and new priorities. Montgomery County's always had its priorities, particularly when it comes to transportation. We've, just as we talked about today, we want to be a more mass transit oriented. We want to put our eggs in those baskets.
Have to.
The leadership currently may not want to do that. Do you think it's going to change much? How's this going to affect, for the next 4 years, our plans to make Montgomery County go?
Well, I think the biggest issue we have before us right now is the Purple Line. And certainly during the campaign, Governor Hogan did not seem to embrace the Purple Line. But since he became governor, and through his Secretary of Transportation, we're hearing a slightly different tune. We're hearing, oh no, we're going to skinny this project up. We're going to save money on this project. We're not going to kill it. It may not be a Cadillac. We'll give you a Chevy. And of course, immediately I raised my hand and said, how about a Buick? Give me something a little more than a Chevy. But that's a different tune than we're going to kill this project. So I'm more optimistic than I was initially that we will have a Purple Line. And my hope is that he recognizes, as someone who's deeply committed to economic development, that for our Montgomery County to move forward, we have to have among the best transit systems in the country. And if we have a Purple Line, if we have Metro that is adequately funded, and if they help us get bus rapid transit off the ground and moving in Montgomery County, that those three prongs will be enough to create a great mass transit system for our community, and people will want to live here.
Well, on that note, moving ahead and wanting to live here is where we're going to end this edition of In the Loop on County Cable Montgomery. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Councilmember Roger Berliner for being our special guest. And please join us next time on County Cable Montgomery.